All right, welcome back. Hope everybody enjoyed the keynote session. Don't think I have to remind you, but probably you should, your phones, make sure you have them on silent. We're going to get right into this because it's 2 o'clock. And now, without any further delay, it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Tom Wood. Today I'll be presenting an overview on what it takes to plan a successful project. Please join me in welcoming Tom to the stage.
Thank you, folks. So, for you folks that weren't here earlier this morning, they were asking an old man that can't chew gum and walk at the same time to do 4 things at once. Click, click, think, and talk. And so we're going to eliminate 1 click. So hopefully this is better. So we're just going to talk about the basics. This is real basic because it's basics about what it takes to build a successful project. So the first step is road review. Now, you go, well, I know that. Well, the thing that I see people make a mistake is rate what you have, not what you want. I don't know how many times I went out on a road review and somebody wanted to do a thin mill and overlay and the road was a piece of garbage. And they said, well, it doesn't rate that bad. No, rate what you have or hire somebody else or have a neighboring person, because there's an old saying with the raccoon hunters is your dog won't hunt, but you'll never admit it, but the neighbor can tell you. So goals and expectations. So I'm going to tie in tractor pulling to this. So our goals and expectations a year ago was that the motor had been together 8 years and we just need to put rings and bearings in it. So that was our goal and expectation. That was our budget. So for the folks that didn't hear earlier this morning, I'm going to repeat this because there's 3 classes of pavement preservation there. There's preventive maintenance. That's keeping the new road new by doing the right thing. There's reactionary maintenance. That's a road that can have some rutting or cracking or whatever, and doing what's right on that. And then there's the third category, and it's hospice. And this is the road that's shot. It's dying. But you know by your budget it's going to be a year or 2 before you can get to doing what's right on it. So what can I do to hold it together? So hopefully not many of you folks have had to deal with hospice in your life. But the thing about hospice care is to keep the patient comfortable and safe. And that's what in this category of roads, we want to keep the road safe for the traveling public. And the comfortable part is we want to limit how much money, time, and exposure our maintenance folks have to do to hold it together. And so why do I bring them up? Well, you can do the same treatment in any one of 3 of these categories, but you need to adjust your expectations on what you're going to get out of the treatment. If I do a chip seal on a new pavement for pavement preservation, I expect to get 7 to 10, maybe 12 years out of the chip seal before I have to re-chip seal it. I do it on a reactionary, it might be 4 to 7 years. I do it as a Band-Aid to hold that hospital, it might be 1 or 2 years. You go, well, geez, it didn't work. Well, no, it did what it was supposed to do. And I bring that up because I see so often that people expect the same thing from the Earl Schreiber $39.95 paint job. You young folks don't know what that was, but on television there used to be an ad, right, Mike? Earl Schreiber $39.95 will make it shine. Yeah, they'd paint right over rust, or you could have a beautiful car if you did a good job prepping it. They didn't look too bad. So set your expectation. So the next step is forensics. So as you can see the tractor in the center there, that's my tractor. And it's sad to say there was 4 tractors in the shop. And at 1,500 horse, I was a baby. So we expected to put rings and bearings because it's 8 years old, about 200 trips down the track. So we did forensics. We dealt with our findings. Oops. Piston sort of beat up, and that was the better one. I had one that was worse. So now instead of just doing a 1.5 mill and fill, maybe I need to do a 3-inch mill and fill. So when I worked for WSB, we had a city that wanted to do an 1.5 mill and fill, and this was one of the cores we got. You think that's going to work for them? So you need to know what you're getting into is what I'm trying to make there. So options, do nothing. Well, time I found out I had bad pistons, there really wasn't an option to put the head back on and go run it. Reconstruct, that's what we chose to do. Now I'd categorize it more as a heavy mill and fill. Full depth reclamation would have been putting a whole new motor together, or a total reclaim, and you're resetting the deal. And that may be the best thing to do, but you got to determine that by doing forensics and by actually rating your road and understanding your budget restraints. Well, on the tractor, luckily I had money set aside for the worst case scenario. In cold in place, I really can't analogize that to a tractor pull, and so I won't, but that's another option for reconstruct. And then mill and overlay. So construction tips. So now you're getting ready to put the project together. How many of you folks have read the whole paving spec in the North Dakota spec book? Hold up your hand. That's sad. Less than half of you. I mean, it's fun reading. I had to, when the feds made us get rid of shall and must and had to rewrite them, I got the joy of reading a lot of them. But you need to understand, read your specs, plans, and proposals. You need to review the project to determine if you have any special needs area. So I'm going to work on your road. But I never drive your road. You tell me it needs an 1.5 mill and fill, but you don't tell me that you got drainage problems because you think I know. Well, what happens when you assume? It ain't good for either one of us. So deal with your special needs. Deal with what my traffic control needs. You may want to do an 1.5 mill and fill in downtown Minot because you're just trying to deal with cracks. But the businessmen and women don't want you interrupting the traffic. So the option might be to do microsurfacing at night when you can come in and do a fix quicker. Drainage, traffic. You need to have a pre-con and discuss issues and concerns with the contractor. And as you're discussing your issues and concerns, need to ask them what issues and concerns they have because they're looking at your plans and proposals with the different items. So they're like that neighbor when you got that bird dog that you think is the greatest bird dog in the world. They look at the bird dog and they say, that dog don't hunt. They're going to tell you what the problem is, and it's a lot easier to negotiate and make changes when you're into pre-con than it is standing out in the grade with 4 miles of road tour open and all the homeowners and everybody real happy that you're not letting them drive. Been there, done that. So now we're going to talk about, well, let's back up, make sure. Okay. So now we're going to talk about construction. And I'm a big fan of shuttle buggies. Temperature segregation is a big no-no. So, left side, is that your tack? Now these are little things, and you're going, man, he's pretty basic. Well, they asked me to talk about the basics. So I'm going to talk about the basics. The right side is not a bad tack. It's a tennis court, so it's hard to do, but it's a lot better. So, compaction, it's got to be good. So paving, you need to check the correct temperature of the material used. Watch for mix and temperature segregation. Tack. Poor tack, I've seen studies, can cost up to 25% of the life of the pavement. And you go, well, wait a minute. What do you mean? So I'm a big boy. Not as big as I used to be, but it's still bigger than I want to be, okay? So if I take 2 2x4s and I put 2 concrete blocks down, 8-foot 2x4s, and I lay them flat on there and I stand on it, guess what? It bows all the way down to the ground. Now if I take those 2 2x4s and I put 4 16-penny spikes evenly spaced on it, it'll bow about halfway down. Now, if I take that apart and I take a good wood adhesive on it and I glue it together and clamp it and let it cure, I jump up and down and don't bend. That's what your tack is doing. It's bonding the layers of the pavement together so they act as an integral structure. And that's a big word for me to say. So, density. Every 1% decrease in density can cost, from optimum, can cost up to 10% of the pavement life. So I don't know, what's North Dakota, 92% theoretical? Is that the spec? So if we're at 91, we lost 10%. We're at 90, we lost 20%. We're at 89, we lost 30%. Hey, guess what? We're starting to get in some serious money here. What do you mean money? The loss in life of the pavement. Microsurfacing, the big things on that is project selection. Small potholes are okay. Raveling, flushing, aged and oxidized. Slurry should only be used for surface treatment. Construction details, watch your water. It's like concrete. A little water's good, a lot of water's bad. So results, that's the tractor. And here's what you get when you do your forensics right. This is about 1,800, 2,000 horsepower. And so hopefully if you do all the basics right on your project, you're going to blow your project out of the water. I'm sure I'm ahead of time, but that's fine. There any questions? Any comments? Am I full of it?
I still have a question. We talked about this before, but I'll ask it here. That together. Our department is still big on crack sealing. We're a small county department. What's your overall feel on just regular old, just crack sealing?
Were you using hot oil?
Hot oil mix and a tar bucket and.
Yeah. So the question is my feelings on using hot oil, your paving grade oils. It's better than doing nothing. Is it optimum? Well, it depends on the road you're picking. So if you came to me and said, Jason, I got 2 choices. I'm going to continue to do what I'm going to do, or I'm going to quit. I'm going to tell you to continue to do. I go back to my early days in 1984. How many folks in here were even alive then? God, that's even getting smaller. We used to do AC3 roofing flux where we filled them. And the roads we did rode better after a few years than the roads we didn't get done. Was it optimal? Probably not looking back for what there, but we didn't have any better thing to do. So to me, on crack sealing, there's hot oil. That's I'm not going to say rudimental, but that's the first step. There's using a hot pour sealant, just blowing out the cracks. We call it clean and fill in Minnesota. And then on a newer road, there's route and seal. And that's the 3 different categories. And each one of them, used in the proper situation, can be very cost effective.
There's also a belief, I don't know, higher up the chain than I am, but we crack seal the roads we're gonna chip seal,
Yep.
like the same year,
Yeah.
like right now, our crew is crack sealing certain roads, and those are the ones that are up for chip seal this year. Does that make the crack seal more effective, do you feel?
I believe so. I've always been an advocate of chip sealing and crack seal right after. When MnDOT used to do warranty chips, crack sealing, a 2-year warranty, if they chip sealed it the same year that the route and seal was done, never had any failures. Because to me, it's like a hand and glove. You treat the sealant with whatever crack treatment you're using, then you put the chip seal over and that protects the sealant. So that's an excellent program. Other questions? Man, I must have bored you. Good. Maybe they won't have me back.
Tom, when you go out there, you know, like I ran into this too. I'm over here.
Yeah.
We're talking about, you know, when you're evaluating pavements, because I get called out a lot too. Well, a lot of it is so far gone. You know, like half of it is just totally garbage, and they just don't have a budget for it. You know,
Yeah.
and you sit there and you go, okay, they go, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I'm just like, well, I really don't know the answer 100% because it's so far gone. You know, half of it might be okay. Maybe you got to look at something else. Well, in a couple places in South Dakota, they were going to turn it back to gravel. I mean,
Yeah.
they just have no money. It's what it is.
And that's where my category of hospice comes in, because that hospice category, you got to get really creative. And maybe on a mile road, like you say, half of it's decent. It'll hold together for a couple years, and the other half's there. So you do two different things to Band-Aid it together until you get money. But the worst thing, and I seen it back in the 80s, and Mike seen it, was the answer in Minnesota was an inch overlay. Just, we'll throw another inch on, we'll throw another inch on. And I've seen some that performed phenomenally, and I've seen some that were on a wrong candidate. It was like putting a Band-Aid over a boil on your arm. It looks better, but the boil's still there. But you got to evaluate, and you got to evaluate honestly. You know, if that dog ain't gonna hunt, if it's a good pup, you keep it. If it's not a good pup, well, maybe you find somebody else that likes it more.
Any other questions? Well, thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Appreciate you speaking. It's always a pleasure.